Senator from Hawaii.
I ask unanimous consent that at 6:15 p.m. all post-cloture time on the House message to accompany S-610 be expired, that the motion to concur with amendment to be withdrawn, that if cloture is invoked on the co-nomination, the Senate vote immediately on the motion to invoke cloture on the Sung nomination. Further, that if cloture is invoked on either nomination, all post-cloture time be expired and the confirmation vote on the co-nomination occur at 5:30 p.m. on Monday, December 13th, and the confirmation vote on the Sung nomination occur at a time to be determined by the majority leader in consultation with the Republican leader. Further, that the cloture motion on the Elliott nomination and the House message to accompany S-1605 ripen on Tuesday, December 14th.
Is there objection? Without objection.
For the information of senators, there will be 3 roll call votes beginning at 6:15. Mr. President, I want to rise today to support the nominations of Victoria Wassmer to be the Chief Financial Officer of the Department of Transportation and Mohsin Syed to be the department's Assistant Secretary for Government Affairs. Right now, we're facing supply chain issues. The reason for this includes unprecedented demand for goods, market disruptions caused by the pandemic, and greater demand. But the biggest issue is the lack of investment in our nation's infrastructure over the past half century. Simply put, we need better infrastructure to move things in, out, and across the country. And that's why it's so important that we pass the bipartisan infrastructure bill. The bill provides an historic $567 billion to the Department of Transportation, including $37 billion for freight investments. It creates new programs to reduce bottlenecks and ease supply chain congestion. The $1.5 billion for my home state of Hawaii will give a massive boost to our local economy. But DOT needs staff to make this investment work. Ms. Wassmer is well qualified to serve as CFO with private and public sector experience, including as CFO of the FAA. The same goes for Mr. Syed as Assistant Secretary for Government Affairs. He spent 6 years on Capitol Hill, including in my office, and worked in the DOT General Counsel's office. That's why he passed out of the Commerce Committee with overwhelming bipartisan support. And that's why it's so maddening that Republicans are now refusing to move these nominations forward. These are not controversial individuals. This is basically a blanket hold to stop the government from functioning, to stop the infrastructure bill from being implemented. And nobody wins here. We don't win passing a huge bill and then kneecapping it. And the American people who sent us here to serve certainly don't win. So let's do our job and move these nominees forward. And so therefore I ask unanimous consent that notwithstanding Rule 22, the Senate proceed to executive session to consider the following nominations. Executive calendar numbers 468 and 469, that the nominations be confirmed, that the motions to reconsider be considered made and laid upon the table with no intervening action or debate, that no further motions be in order, the nominations, that any related statements be printed in the record and the President be immediately notified of the Senate's action, and that the Senate resume legislative session.
Is there objection?
Mr. President.
The Senator from Florida.
Mr. President, reserving the right to object. I'm sure my colleague is aware that last month I sent a letter to the Commerce Committee, a committee on which we both serve, informing the chair that I would be holding all Department of Transportation and Department of Commerce nominees until the Senate confirmed leadership from these agencies testify about the supply chain crisis. Right now, there are nearly 100 ships waiting to dock in California ports to unload their goods, but they are unable to do so because of President Biden's supply chain crisis. Christmas is just a couple weeks away, and families and businesses are facing empty shelves, shortages on goods, and higher prices. And so far, Secretary Raimondo and Secretary Buttigieg have been too busy playing TV commentator to actually go to California and solve the problem. It's long past time for the Biden administration to tell us what they're actually doing to solve this crisis and to help American families. I appreciate my colleagues' partnership with me on the issues under the purview of the Commerce Committee. In fact, I'm looking forward to next week when a bill we are leading together will be considered during a Commerce markup hearing. Given that we will be in session next week, I would urge my colleague to join me in urging leadership from the Commerce and Transportation Departments to come before the committee and testify on what those agencies are doing to combat and mitigate the supply chain crisis that is hurting so many families and businesses in Florida and across the country. This isn't an unreasonable request. The Senate is oversight authority, and we can't allow agency leadership to just ignore their responsibility to report to us on these issues impacting our constituents. But is that too much to ask? I'm inviting Secretary Raimondo and Secretary Buttigieg to even just have an open public meeting with me and my colleagues. But until we hear from the Senate-confirmed officials responsible for this crisis in the Commerce Committee, I'll be objecting to all Commerce and Transportation nominees going through an expedited process here in the Senate. This isn't personal. It's about accountability for Florida families. Therefore, Mr. President, I object.
The objection is heard. Senator from Ohio.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise